The wind outside howled like a hungry beast. Snow whipped across the icy wasteland, covering everything in a thick white blanket. Inside a small underground shelter, Cal Braden sat near a heater, eating a small bowl of reheated protein stew. The storm was getting worse, but that was normal on Krovac 4. A frozen planet at the edge of human colonized. Space. Cal lived alone. He had once been a combat engineer for the Interstellar Union. His job had been to help evacuate settlers when the planet became unstable. But during the last evacuation, a shuttle failed. Cal stayed behind to repair it. The others left. Then the shuttle exploded. Now he was stuck, here forgotten alone. And he checked the solar battery level. Low. The storm had blocked sunlight for days. Rations were running thin. Cal sighed and leaned back in his chair. That's when he heard it. Tap dash tap scratch tap dash tap. It came from the hatch, not the outer windlock, but the main entrance. That was impossible. Nothing alive should be out in this kind of storm. He grabbed his shock baton and flashlight. Moving cautiously, he opened the inner seal and peered through the narrow viewing slit. Snow was blowing hard. First he saw nothing. Then dash movement. Something slammed against the door. A blur of fur, a flash of claws, sharp teeth, glowing teal. Eyes. What in the? Cal fell back, startled. He had seen dangerous creatures on this planet, but this was different. This thing looked like a mix between a human and a wild animal. Its body was slim but strong, covered in silver-gray fur. Its arms were long, its claws sharp. But what made him pause were the eyes. Not wild, not rage-filled, just tired, lost, lonely. The creature didn't attack again, collapsed against the door, sliding down into the snow. Cal hesitated. He had every reason to leave it out there. Maybe it would freeze. Maybe it was already dying. Safer that way. But something in those eyes kept haunting him. Just great, he muttered. Against all logic, he unlocked the hatch and opened it a crack. The cold hit him like a wall. He reached out, grabbed the creature by the arm-soft fur, shivering skin, and dragged it inside. He shut the hatch fast. It didn't fight. Snarl. It just lay there, breathing shell. Cal pulled it onto a mat near the heater. He looked closer now. Its face. It was more human than animal. Slender nose, high cheekbones. Fangs, yes, but small, not meant for killing. Its hands were clawed, but fingers still formed like a person's. "What are you?" Cal whispered. He wrapped a heat blanket around it. Minutes passed. Slowly, the creature stirred. Eyes opened again. Teal and glowing, but softer now. It tried to speak, but no words came out. Just a quiet sound, like a breath mixed with a whimper. Cal stepped back, baton ready. The creature sat up weakly. Then, to his surprise, it held up both hands, palms open, showing no threat. It wasn't here to fight. Not now. Hours later, Cal made a second bowl of stew. The creature was awake, sitting across from him on the other side of the heater. He still had the baton near. He now realized it was female-made. No move toward it. He pushed the bowl toward her. She looked at it. Confused, Cal mimed eating. Like this? She copied him, sniffed, tasted, then quickly ate it all. She must have been starving. Cal tried to talk slowly and clearly. "Can you speak?" She tilted her head. He pointed at himself. "Cal," she blinked. Then after a long pause, she pointed to herself. "Sevra," she said, voice soft and rough. Sevra, a name, not a monster. Then, she wasn't human. But she wasn't just an animal either. Later, as she rested under the blanket, Cal sat in silence. He pulled up his old datapad and scanned for records. Sevra's species wasn't listed. No known life form matched her exact appearance. But one report from 10 years ago mentioned a secret alien project bioengineered beings with adaptive transformation. Most were said to have died out. "So you're one of the last," he said aloud. Looking at the sleeping girl, she curled up like a child, her tail wrapping around her legs. A part of Cal still wanted to push her out. She was a stranger, dangerous, unknown, but another part buried deep under years of silence felt. Something else, pity, connection, responsibility. Outside, the storm raged on. The wind screamed. Snow buried everything, but inside, for the first time in years, Cal wasn't alone, and he wasn't sure how to feel about that. The next day, the storm finally passed. Outside, the frozen world of Krovac 4 looked quiet again, but Cal knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. The snow hid dangers. The cold covered secrets. Inside the shelter, Fevra was awake. She stood near the heater, looking around with quiet curiosity. Cal watched her carefully. She was still wrapped in the emergency blanket, but she looked more calm, more aware. Her fur had thinned a little and her claws had shortened. Her body was slowly changing. Cal handed her a cup of warm water. She took it without fear. Now, are you hungry? He asked. She tilted her head, trying to understand. Then she nodded. Cal opened another ration pack. It wasn't much, just dried meat and some grain cubes, but it was enough. They sat on opposite sides of the room as she ate, silent but peaceful. After a while, Cal spoke again. You said your name is Sevra? She nodded. Do you understand me? Sevra frowned, then closed her eyes. Slowly, carefully, she said in a broken voice, Understand. Little, speak. Slow. That was progress. Cal nodded. Okay, I'll speak slow. Over the next few days, Cal tried to learn more. He used hand signs, pictures, and basic words. Sevra responded well. She was learning fast, much faster than he expected. She explained her story, bit by bit. Her kind were created by the Valerians, an alien race known for genetic experiments. Sevra was part of a phase shifter species, living beings who could change form based on light and moon cycles. She had once lived in a small colony with others like her, but the Valerians left and the planet became unstable. Her people were hunted by machines or killed by the cold. Now she believed she was the last one. Cal listened with growing sadness. He knew how that felt, being the last, being forgotten. How did you find me? He asked one evening. Sevra pointed at the sky, then her nose. Smell, smoke, warm. Place. Cal chuckled. So I was cooking soup, and you tracked me down? Sevra smiled slightly. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. Days passed. Sevra helped Cal clean the shelter. She learned how to use tools, how to seal cracks in the vents, how to manage the solar power levels. She moved quietly, gently even, when she still had fur or claws. Every few days, Cal noticed something strange. When the sky darkened and the moonlight grew stronger, Sevra began to change. Her limbs grew longer. Her fur thickened. Her voice faded. Her eyes glowed more brightly. She didn't lose control, but she became quieter, more animal-like. Cal realized this change wasn't just about survival. It was a part of her. One night, during a full moon, Sevra sat near the entrance, staring out through the small window. Cal sat beside her, silent. Do you miss them? He asked. She nodded. Slowly, yes, my people, my family, all gone. Cal understood that pain too well. He'd once had a team, friends, a future. Now, they were just memories. You're not alone now, he said softly. Sevra looked at him, her glowing eyes blinking. Slowly, I feel less empty. Later that week, Cal took her outside. The storm had cleared, and the air was safe for now. He handed her a pair of thick boots and gloves. She copied him, putting them on awkwardly. They walked across the snow-covered plain toward an old wrecked shuttle. Cal had scavenged from it before, but some doors were frozen shut. He wanted Sevra's help. She stepped lightly through the snow, faster than him. Her senses were sharp. She could hear things he couldn't, smell danger before it came. She sniffed the air and froze. Bad scent, she warned. Cal crouched. Where? She pointed toward a ridge. Metal and fire. Not natural. Worried him. Fire meant machines. Maybe drones. Maybe worse. They left the shuttle and returned to the shelter. Cal activated his motion scanners. Nothing yet, but he knew that meant someone or something was watching from afar. "Do you think they followed you?" he asked. Severa looked down. "Maybe. I ran far, hid long. But maybe that night Cal couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking, why had he let her in? She was a risk, a mystery, a possible target for dangerous enemies. But at the same time, she had saved his mind from silence. He turned to look at her. She was curled up under the blanket, half human, half wolf-like, her breathing steady. Even in her strange form, she seemed peaceful. Cal realized something important then. She wasn't just a guest. She was family now. The next morning, Cal began reinforcing the shelter. Extra locks, hidden escape routes, deeper power reserves. Severa watched him, then joined in. Together they built. They didn't speak much that day, but they didn't need to. In this cold, forgotten world, a human and an alien found something rare: trust. And somewhere far above them, in the quiet of space, something else was watching, something not friendly. But for now, in their tiny shelter, the fire was warm and they were not alone. 3 weeks had passed since Severa first came to Cal's shelter. Life had become quieter, almost normal. They had built trust. They worked together, even laughed sometimes. But peace on Kravak 4 never lasted long. One morning, Cal sat at the table, checking the motion sensors. The screen flickered, then beeped softly. A red dot appeared near the edge of the valley far from the shelter, but still close enough to worry him. He zoomed in. A small survey drone hovered over the snow, scanning the ground. Its blinking lights were unmistakably alien, the kind used by Zari patrol fleets. Cal's heart sank. The Zari were hired soldiers, loyal to whoever paid them. They had once worked with the Valerians. If the drone found Severa, they would report it, and soon real hunters would come. He quickly shut the panel. Severa stepped into the room, sensing something was wrong. "What is it?" she asked softly. "Trouble," Cal replied. A drone spotted movement near the ridge. Her eyes narrowed. "I should leave." Cal stood. "No, you'll be in danger," she said. "I already am," he replied. "I chose to let you in. I don't regret that." Severa lowered her head, touched by his words. "Then we must prepare." The next day a ship arrived. It wasn't big, just a light skimmer used for scouting, but it was armed. Landed behind the ridge, hidden from satellite scans. 3 figures stepped out, wearing black-hand blue armor marked with Izar symbols. One of them held a scanning rod. "We detected a heat signature," he said in a robotic voice. "Non-native life form present." Another nodded. "Right. Orders are clear, eliminate, or capture. No witnesses." Back at the shelter, Cal and Severa worked quickly. They reinforced the doors and set up traps in the snowed defense tools Cal had stored from his engineering days. Motion-triggered flares, tripwires, and ice pick covers. Severa helped him dig narrow escape tunnels under the shelter. Her hands were fast, claws sharp, and senses alert. They knew the Azari would come soon, that night. As the moon rose, Severa changed again. Her form grew taller. Fur thickened. Eyes glowed bright teal. But she remained calm, aware. She looked at Cal. "I can help you fight." He nodded.
"I know."
The Azari moved through the snow like wolves. They were trained hunters. Silent, cold, and dangerous. Of them spotted footprints. "Fresh," he said. 2 subjects. 1 human, 1 unknown. Target confirmed. They moved closer, but the first trap went off. A flare shot into the sky, blinding one of the soldiers. A blast of light lit up the snowfield. Cal watched from a hidden trench as the Azari stumbled. Severa moved through the snow with speed and silence. She circled behind them, claws ready. 1 soldier fell into a pit. The other turned. Just in time to see Severa leap from the shadows and strike. She didn't kill, only knocked the soldier out with a hard hit to the head. The 3rd soldier ran. Toward the shelter, Cal met him at the entrance, using a hand-built shock rod. Cal slammed it into the soldier's chest. Sparks flew. The man fell stunned. It was over for now. They tied the soldiers and dragged them inside the old crashed shuttle nearby. Cal searched their gear. He found a data chip and inserted it into his reader. Sever leaned over his shoulder. The chip showed orders: track and remove biogenetic creatures. Target: phase shifter survivors. Priority: clean the sector. More were coming. They'll send more, Cal said. This was just a scout team. Sever's voice was quiet. Then we run. Cal shook his head. No, we don't have fuel. Or transport. We'll have to defend again. Sever looked at him. Help me, you could leave me. Save yourself. Cal sighed. Because you saved me first. Not with weapons, but by reminding me I'm still human. I don't leave people behind, not anymore. Sever looked at him with respect and something else belonging. They spent the next day, preparing for another attack. Cal repaired an old turret on the roof. Sevra hunted for food, staying low and quiet. She found frozen berries and a snow hare. Bringing them back proudly, they cooked together. In those quiet moments, Cal saw how far they had come. Not enemies. Not strangers, but survivors. Together, that night, Cal watched the stars. Sevra sat beside him on the shelter roof, her fur glowing in the moonlight. Do you think others like you are still out there? He asked. Sevra was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. Some ran, some hid. But I don't know. I feel alone. You're not. Cal said. She looked at him, and in her glowing eyes, he saw something gentle. Something grateful, and something strong. In the distance, another ship entered the planet's orbit. This one was bigger, faster, armed. The real fight was coming, but now, Cal wasn't afraid, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't alone either. The sky was dark. The stars above Kravek 4 blinked faintly behind fast-moving clouds. Wind howled across the snowy land, shaking the walls of Cal's shelter. But inside it was warm and tense. Cal checked the screen again. A new red signal flashed. A second Izari ship had entered orbit. It was larger than the first. Combat class, they know we're here, Cal muttered. They'll come fast this time. Sever stood near the heater, arms folded across her fur-covered chest. Her transformation had already begun again. The moon was nearly full. Her body was taller, more beast-like, but her voice was steady. Mind was still her own. They won't stop, she said softly. They want to erase all of us, even the last. Cal turned toward her. Then we don't give them what they want. He had faced enemies before on other planets, in other wars. But this was different. This time, he wasn't fighting for a base or a mission. He was fighting for someone. For Sevra, they had less than 24 hours before the next wave of attackers would arrive. Cal made a plan. He turned on all his old engineering. Knowledge, digging out blueprints, broken weapons, and hidden tools. Sevra helped where she could. Her sharp senses noticed things he missed: loose vents, weak wiring, old explosives hidden under Snurdnuth. They built new traps, rewired old ones, moved supplies into the escape tunnels. Prepared for the worst. At sunset, Sevra stepped outside and stared up at the rising moon. It was large and clear, casting silver light over the land. Her body shimmered. Cal stood behind her. Watching her transformation this time was smoother, less painful. She dropped to her knees, glowing with energy, but didn't grow wild. Her breath was steady. Her claws grew, but her eyes stayed clear. Still me, she whispered. Cal stepped closer. You're changing, evolving. I did. Maybe the loneliness made my body stop before, but now, with you, I'm not afraid. That night, they heard engines dot loud, heavy. The ground shook. The second ship landed just past the frozen hills. Cal's scanner counted 6 life forms this time. Armed soldiers. Maybe more in the ship. They'll attack at dawn, Cal said. We need to hit them first. Sever nodded. Then we go to them. Cal looked surprised. You sure? She said, this is my fight too. Before dawn, they moved through the snow. Cal wore thermal armor, holding a pulse rifle made from old parts. Sever moved beside him, fast and silent, her fur blending with the dark. They reached a ridge overlooking the ship. It was tall and dark, shaped like a spear stuck in the snow. Red lights blinked near the base. Soldiers walked in circles, scanning. The area one of them turned suddenly. Cal ducked, drone above. Sever growled low. "I'll take left. You're right." He nodded. They split up, circling the camp. Sever struck first, like a shadow. She leaped from behind a snowbank and hit the nearest guard. A quick blow to the head dropped him cold. Another turned, aiming a plasma gun, but Cal's shot knocked the weapon from his hands. "Move," Cal shouted. Alarms blared from the ship. Lights flared. More soldiers ran out, shouting in a strange alien tongue. Severa dodged plasma bolts with speed that no human could match. She jumped high, using claws to climb the ship's side. Tried to follow, but Cal fired again, hitting the man's leg. Severa reached the top of the ship and yanked out a power core wire. Sparks flew. The ship's lights flickered. "They're blind," Cal shouted. But the enemy leader was smart. He activated a heavy drone twice the size of the others. Floating above the battlefield with a mounted cannon, Severa jumped back. Just as it fired, the snow exploded behind her. Cal rolled into cover. "We need to take that thing down," shouted. Severa looked up, eyes glowing. "I'll distract it," she said. She ran toward the drone, dodging blast after blast. It followed her, drifting lower, focused on her glowing heat signature. Cal crawled through the snow to an old wreck nearby. He found a buried energy Rodan stable, but powerful. He activated it. The moment the drone passed overhead, he threw the rod with all his strength. Boom. A flash of white light filled the air. The drone exploded, crashing down in pieces. Severa dropped to her knees, breathing hard. The soldiers, disoriented and outnumbered now, treated toward the ship, but Severa stood again. No escape. "Chee," whispered. She charged forward fast as a Storman took down the last two guards. Cal walked to her side. They looked at the burning wreckage together. "It's over," he said. "For now," Severa replied. "But more will come." Cal nodded. "Then we send them a message." Inside the broken ship, they found a data terminal. Cal accessed the files, copied everything: orders, reports, mission logs. One video caught his attention: an Azari commander giving orders: eliminate phase shifters. None must survive. They are unfinished products, too dangerous. Severa watched the video with calm eyes. "They were never going to stop," she said, "even if I hid forever." "Now, the whole galaxy will know," Cal said. "We'll send this to Earth Command. To the Union, if they see what the Azari are doing, maybe they'll act." Severa looked at him. "You believe they will help?" Cal smiled faintly. "Maybe, maybe not, but we'll try. Together." As the sun rose over the snow, the shelter stood tall, smoke rising gently from its pipe. Severa and Cal sat by the fire again, tired, bruised, but alive. She rested her head on his shoulder. Her claws had shrunk. Her eyes were soft. "You are not afraid of me anymore," she said quietly. Cal looked at her. "I never really was. You just reminded me what it means to care." Severa closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she felt safe. Snow fell again across the frozen lands of Krovak 4. Gently, this time no storm, no wind. The world looked peaceful. But Cal Braden knew peace here was never real. It was only the space between battles. Inside the shelter, Cal worked quickly. Wires, tools, data drives all spread across the table. He was building a high-frequency signal booster. With the data Severa and he had recovered from the Azari ship, he needed to send a message out, one that would reach the Union command. Back in human space, Severa stood nearby, watching silently. Her fur was thinner again. The moon was fading. Her form was more human now, but her strength remained. "Will the humans listen?" she asked quietly. Cal looked up. "I think so. If they see what the Azori did to your people, what they're still doing, they'll have to respond." Severa nodded, but her eyes were worried. "What if they don't?" Cal sighed. "Then we fight alone. But at least the truth won't be buried." It took most of the day, but by evening the signal was ready. Cal stood on the ridge above the shelter, holding a tall antenna. Severa was beside him, carrying a small power core. "Ready?" Cal asked. Severa nodded and pressed the switch. A high-pitched hum began, and lights flickered across the transmitter. The signal burst upward, pushing through the atmosphere like a sharp cry in a quiet void. "Message sent," Cal said. "Now we wait." But they didn't have to wait long. Just 2 hours later, the motion sensor beeped. Cal rushed to the screen. A third ship had entered orbit. This one was larger than the last two combined. Severa looked at the display. "That's a command vessel." "Yeah," Cal muttered. "They brought the boss this time." The Azari command vessel landed beyond the hills, close enough to walk, but far enough to hide its exact location. Cal scanned the surface den, maybe 12 heat signatures. More soldiers. "Heavily armed," he said. Severa took a breath. "Can't take them all." "No," Cal replied, "but we don't have to." He pointed to the terrain map. "There's an old geothermal pipe nearby, still active. If we reroute the heat flow through this vent," he traced a path toward the enemy camp, "can create a burst of underground pressure. Boil the snow under their feet, confuse them, separate them." Severa smiled. "Then strike when they're weak." Exactly. All night they prepared. Cal opened old vents and rewired thermal lines. Severa dug a narrow path toward the Azari camp, marking key points with invisible ice symbols, her own kind of silent language. When morning came, they were ready. Cal triggered the heat burst. Far across the valley, the snow cracked and exploded. In steam, soldiers shouted, slipping, falling. Smoke blinded their helmets. Severa leaped into action. She moved like a whisper through the chaos, striking hard. Fast, but never to kill. She hit their weapons, knocked out communications, disappeared before they could fire back. Cal attacked from the ridge, using the last working turret. Laser beams flashed across the snow. The Azari scrambled for cover, confused and divided. Then the commander arrived. Tall, armored in black plates, the Azari leader stepped out of the ship with calm steps. He held a plasma lance and moved toward the center of the battlefield. "Phase shifter," he shouted in a deep voice. "You are unfinished, created for war, not peace. Your time ends here." Severa stood at the edge of a rock, glowing under the half-moon. "I choose who I am," she replied. "You don't decide that?" He raised his weapon. "You were meant to obey. I obey no one." She jumped. The battle between Severa and the commander was fierce. He was strong, trained, and well-equipped. Severa was faster and free. She dodged each strike, using the snow and wind as cover. Her claws clashed against metal. Sparks flew. The commander swung wide, and Severa slid under the attack, slicing at his armor. But he was skilled. One hit knocked her back. She rolled, gasping. Cal fired from the ridge, hitting the commander's side, stumbled. Severa rose again. Together, they pressed the attack Cal from above. Severa from below. Finally, Severa leapt high, spinning in midair, and landed behind the commander. With one final strike, she smashed the core of his armor. He collapsed, still. Alive but defeated. The remaining soldiers dropped their weapons and surrendered. Cal walked slowly toward the fallen commander. He looked at the man, then at Severa. "You okay?" Severa nodded. "It's tired, but still me." Cal smiled. "Good." Later, they tied the prisoners and sent out a second signal, this time with proof of the commander's orders. Images of the experiments. And a full report of the attack. "This one's loud," Cal said. "No one's going to ignore it." Severa looked out at the snow. Cal was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Now we wait for the real response. And if no one comes, we survive," Severa finished. Together. That night, inside the shelter, the fire burned warm. Severa sat close, her eyes half closed. "You know," Cal said softly, "you could have run back when this all started." Severa looked at him. "And leave you alone?" "No, you were the first to stay when I needed someone." Cal nodded. "Then I'll stay too." Above them, far in the sky, a Union scout beacon blinked to life. Help was coming. But even if it didn't arrive soon, Cal and Severa knew one thing for sure. They were no longer just survivors. They were defenders. And no one would take their home from them again. The cold wind had finally calmed. The sun rose slowly over the icy plains of Krovac 4, casting a pale orange glow on the snow. Inside the shelter, Cal, Braden, and Severa waited nervously. Days had passed since they sent their last message. The signal was strong, carrying proof of the Azari's cruelty and the truth about the phase shifters. Now all they could do was hope. Cal stood by the small viewport, staring at the distant horizon. "Do you think they'll come?" Severa asked softly, sitting on the floor near the heater. Her form was mostly human now, the thick fur gone for the moment. Her eyes still shone faintly with teal light. Cal didn't answer at once. "I want to believe they will," he said finally. "But we have to be ready if they don't." Severa nodded. "We will survive. Together." Outside, the ground trembled faintly. A shadow moved across the sky. Cal's heart raced through the thin clouds. A small fleet of ships appeared sleek, silver and marked with the Union insignia. Finally, Cal whispered. The ships landed softly near the shelter. Humans in uniform poured out, their faces curious but kind. One stepped forward, Commander Elena Marsh, a veteran of many interstellar missions. "We received your message," she said firmly. "The Union will investigate these crimes." "You are not alone anymore." Severa stepped forward, her voice steady. "Thank you for believing." Over the next weeks, the Union team helped rebuild the shelter. They repaired the power systems, brought fresh food, and scanned the area for any remaining threats. Cal and Severa worked side by side with them. The story of the phase shifters spread quickly through the Union fleet. Severa met others who looked like her hidden survivors, afraid but hopeful. One evening, Cal and Severa stood on a hill overlooking the settlement that was growing. Children played in the snow. Humans and phase shifters walked side by side. Severa smiled. "This is the home I dreamed of." Cal smiled back. "You helped build it?" "We both did." The stars above twinkled brightly. Cal felt a peace he hadn't known in years. Severa's eyes shone softly, no longer lonely. Together, they had turned a frozen wasteland into a place of hope, a new kind of home where anyone could belong.